This is Rob Tebbett for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Dave Coldwell. It's the morning after the night before Anthony Joshua, still unified heavyweight champion of the world. Dave, how you doing?
I'm very good, thanks, mate. I'm all right, not too bad.
Good. What did you make of last night's boxing, Dave?
The boxing as a whole, or the main fight?
We'll start from the top and work our way down. Let's start with the main event.
Okay.
Anthony Joshua, 9th round KO win over Kubrat Pulev. What did you make of his performance?
Firstly, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fight. I liked what. Do you know what? I mean, you get stick wet, but I really like what I saw in terms of the evolution of what he's trying to do, the process of what he's putting together, and his team are putting together, and the adaptations, the evolving of the style. He was so much more active with that non-punching activity with the left hand. He's distracting, his positioning. You could see that he was more conscious about his lead foot positioning. His upper body movement was better. His head movement, it was better, and he's improving as a fighter. And I did say that I wanted to see some sort of blend between his, obviously he's a more aggressive old style that's exciting, and the boxing skills that they implemented for the Ruiz rematch. And you kind of had a little bit of a blend there. And I enjoyed it. And, he did really, really well. The third round, it was some onslaught, that was. And it's perfectly natural. People get offended if you say, oh, he looked a bit gassed. No, I'm not. If it is a featherweight that opens his tank up, and I'm talking about power shots that goes relentless on an assault, power shots like that, then they're going to feel, oh, hang on a minute, I need to take a round off, or I need to be a little bit smarter. And that's what I felt. I felt as though the sharpness and the spring in the legs, the step, and so the sharpness of the punching, he just dipped a little bit after that third round, because he emptied a lot of fuel in that round. I'm not saying he emptied his tank. I'm saying he depleted it quite a lot. So then he made a conscious decision. Round 4, I'm going to be smarter. I'm going to take my foot off the gas. I need to recoup for my second wind. But that allowed Pulev to get some sort of momentum and come in, get into the fight a little bit. And then once a fighter starts getting a little bit of confidence, especially as he's had such a hellacious round and such a beating in that round, to then come back and then think, oh, okay, well, that round I didn't take any punishment, I feel good. He's gassed. He goes back to his corner, and his corner tell him he's gassed. You're in the fight now. Keep the pressure on him, and you will get to him. So it gives him that confidence that would probably just shattered the previous round to get back into the fight, and then just think, no matter what you do now, I know you're tired, and I know that I can wear you out. And so Pulev started having a little bit more success. And AJ, the thing about AJ is he's learning on the job, and I don't, and again, I'm not knocking, but I don't think he's a natural fighter in the terms of a boxing sense. I'm not saying on the street or whatever. I don't know his business about his brother about that sort of stuff. But I'm saying is he's not a natural sort of fighter in boxing terms, where you see guys they get caught, they're nice and they're comfortable getting caught, and they're comfortable in spots that aren't going their way. It just seems that when Joshua gets caught, I'm not saying it hurts him. When he gets caught, or when Tank might be going a little bit, or if he has any slight concerns, you can always kind of like see it on an expression on his face. Do you know what I mean? He's not a good bluffer, and he doesn't hide the emotions. If somebody chats to him, then he'll give it back. If if he gets caught, then you see him. He'll smile, or he'll have a reaction out of it. And so because he does things like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that the wheels are coming off. But I said in my tweet last night, I said there's always an air of after that third round, there was always an air of, are the wheels going to come off? Is he going to gas? If you don't get rid of him, how is it in? And if Pulev can put it on him, how is it gonna evolve this fight down the stretch? There is always that air of vulnerability, so it makes it more exciting to watch. But also, every time that he has that air of vulnerability, I think, and he comes through it with a finishing like that, then that's part of him. That's part of how he is. Because, like I said, some fighters, you hit a Golovkin and it just bounces off him. He has no reactions. It's Canelo saying, there are fighters like that just carry on and they're not fussed when they have dips or nip and tuck rounds or anything like that. But it's almost like if AJ has a round where he's not completely in control, we all go, ooh, what's happening here? You know what I mean? And we blow it up to you a little bit more, but that's just because he doesn't really mask it as well. But that's just experience. That's just learning on the job. Yes, he was Olympic champion and all that sort of stuff, but he got put into the bigger fights as a pro very quickly. And so he's been learning on the job all the time. And so he's done a fantastic job learning on the job. That's that under the microscope with the level of opponents and things like that. Learning from the Ruiz mistakes in the third round, they probably thought, okay, I rushed that one. I thought he was gone. I walked straight back into the fire and I got caught. I'll be a little bit smarter. So there are different ways you can look at it. But I was impressed. I liked what I saw. With the adjustments that they're making and how he's evolving as a fighter. And one thing that I've got to say is, as a man who's earned the money that he's made and who's been at the top for so long now, Olympics, world champion, blah, 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 for him to still have that desire and that mentality to keep learning and add new age, I think it's commendable. I think it's brilliant. It tells you about his attitude. Anybody, not just him, anybody that's at that top level and keeps adding to the game rather than keeps doing what they're good at and just making sure that they're on top of it all the time, being fit, being in shape and everything. I'm talking about actually adding to a game, evolving his style. That's pretty good. Takes a lot of, I've worked with fighters and I've seen fighters, for years where they're good and they're good at a certain thing. There's a couple of things that you think, well, if they could improve on or if they added to the game, and they don't want to because they feel, well, I keep winning. I've got a great career. I've cracked it. I've done this. I've done that. I'm happy where I'm at. And they stay at that sort of level. But you look at somebody like AJ, like I said, we talk about money all the time, and hunger and desire. This guy's got money coming out of his ears and he's still working hard to improve. So I take me out of turn for that.
Picking it straight back up there. Inevitably after the fight, the question turned to Tyson Fury, undisputed heavyweight title fight. Anything that you saw last night make you change your mind on how you think that fight would go?
It makes it an even better fight for me, what I saw last night, because I'm seeing, like I said, evolution of Anthony Joshua. I'm seeing him adding things to it. So it becomes more of a puzzle, more of a problem for anybody that's in there with, including Fury. He's still got that speed. He's still got that power to hurt any heavyweight. But it's very difficult because Fury's a completely different opponent to what a Pulev is, to what a Ruiz is. Do you understand? So the successes that you have against a Pulev doesn't necessarily mean that you can have those same successes against a Tyson Fury. So it makes it difficult to say, yes, this will work against him. And because the other thing is as well, is while AJ is trying to get these little breaks, little breathers, resetting patterns and things, Fury's a big imposing figure. And Fury can still be out of range and use his reach and his long arms, and he's accustomed to doing all that sort of stuff. It's new, it's natural to him. It's not going to burn any more energy. It's not going to burn any more brain energy for him. So he can put him under pressure and make him carry on working while he's, when he's not punching and when he's trying to get a breather. So how does that affect Joshua? I still say the same thing. If it's a boxing match, I think Fury wins the fight. If AJ can drag it into a bit of a shootout, then I give him the chance of knocking Fury out, because Fury's not invincible. He's a fighter that's been down before. Yes, he's got up, but he's been down. If you've been down and it's heavyweight boxing, anyone can get put out. So there is no foregone conclusion, and there's so many different elements. But I've got to say that this is a style that, like I said, Joshua's learning on the job. He's still adding everything. He's adding these pieces to himself. And for me, he's needed to add this to his game to have more of a chance of being the number one. And the more he can add to it and be comfortable and be able to do it in fight simulation situation against somebody that's as physically imposing, he's taller, he's longer, he'll be heavier than Joshua. He's got to deal with all that, as well as the speed of Fury, as well as the boxing brain of Fury. And Fury is a master at taking away what you're good at. And also, he's a master at getting into your brain. And I worry for Joshua that people... I'm not saying that it makes him lose his game plan or anything like that, but even little things where when somebody like Pulev's talking to him in the ring, you could see Joshua, and I'm not saying that, oh yeah, that derails him, but that breaks your concentration. And if that can break concentration and you have to be 100% on it mentally and concentrate on it in that fight with Fury, because there's going to be so much going off. There's going to be so much twitching. There's going to be so many feints going off, so many little touches, and there's going to be so much going off. And Fury's going to be giving it that and going into his mindset as well. It's a tough fight. It's a very, very tough fight. And like I said, it's not a fight that I'm confident in predicting a winner either way. But I would still have to say that for me, Joshua's improving fantastically. It really is. But is he be able to pull it off against that kind of opponent? I don't know, because I've seen this evolution against Ruiz, who's shorter and not the fastest, and Pulev, who all right was taller, 6'4", but still shorter than AJ, still shorter reach than AJ, but again not the fastest. You're talking about different styles that I've seen this new style of AJ going against compared to the style that he has to do it against Fury. That is a big question mark. That is something I've not seen, so I can't say yes, that'll work against that. He has the tools in his arsenal to pull it off against Fury.
Final one before we move on. Paco Valcarcel, WBO president, he came out last night and said, "Hey, listen, remember the WBO has to be observed next. Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. To me, that's a very, very interesting matchup. What do you think?"
Yeah, I think it's a really good matchup. It's and again, Joshua's improving. If you were talking about the older Joshua before, there's a lot more going off. Then I thought Usyk gives him a lot of problems. Usyk's got to be wary of the power, but boxing ability wise, I would say that Usyk's the better boxer. But Usyk at heavyweight, I've said before, he doesn't seem to be doing the same things as he did at cruiserweight. I don't know if that's the added weight or what, but if you watch Usyk in the Super Series, you watch him throughout his career at cruiserweight, and you watch the two fighters at heavyweight, there are elements of his setup, positioning, distractions, feints, twitches, the whole puzzle that is Alexander Usyk at cruiserweight. There's elements of that that are taken away that aren't there at heavyweight. And that makes it easier for people to get to, and he's easier to read. I'm not saying he's easy, but he's easier. So right now, I don't think he's as good at heavyweight as what he was at cruiserweight. So I don't know, but that's a great fight. That's a really good fight. It's a fight I'd be interested to see. I would love to see, yes, but I want to see the Fury fight. But I want to see that fight. So I get what Paco's doing, because he's got to look after his champion. But this is the it's a difficult one, because if you're Usyk, you want your crack, and if you're Team Usyk, you want your crack. So if I'm Usyk's manager or anything to do, I'm like, no, we deserve that crack next. We want that fight. But if you're the rest of the world, especially in Britain, the rest of Britain, British people, you want the Fury fight. That's what it is. And said to Usyk, go on, do you well to get another fight, in between. Let these two fight and get the undisputed and see who's the number one, and you get the winner. What is it? 6 months? Go on, you've waited all this time. You can wait a little bit longer. It's not like you've waited, extraordinary amounts.
I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a sizable step aside fee if he was to
Yeah,
entertain that idea.
definitely. And also, what I've got to say as well, this where yes, he did what he did at cruiserweight, but has he had the 2 wins at heavyweight that suggests you demand and you deserve to get your crack straight away? Do you demand? Who beat Chaz Witherspoon and Derek Chisora? Those 2 wins in the division, does that say to you that you should have your crack above absolutely anybody else? I get what he did at cruiserweight, but the heavyweight division is a completely different thing. You've seen the wins that Dillian White's got on his record. You've seen the wins that Fury got on his record. By beating Klitschko. You look at what AJ's got on his record with guys that he's beaten. Fury and AJ, they need to face off. They need to face off and prove who's the number one. Usyk's not done anything at heavyweight to say that he deserves his crack at the WBO title more than Fury deserves a crack at the undisputed, or more than AJ deserves a crack at the undisputed.
Well, we look forward to seeing how that plans out. I'm actually due to speak to Mr. Krasiuk today. So hopefully we get a little bit more of an insight as to what's going to be going on next from Team Usyk. Moving on, quick touch upon the undercard. Lawrence Ocala returned to the ring, not for the WBO title, unfortunately, but looked very good in dispatching of Nikodem Jazuski in 2 rounds.
Yeah, and listen, do you know what? When you post something on Twitter, people jump on and like to dissect it. I said, forget the opponent, and then I'm talking about Ocala's performance, what I see in Ocala, right? Listen, we all know that opponent was a last-minute substitute, fucking not good enough, not what you want. But what can you do when a fight is fallen through for a world title last minute in the situation that we're in with COVID and everything? It's very, very difficult, right? So number one, he did well to stay on the show, but I wasn't talking about the opponent. So when I say forget the opponent, it means what I'm saying next isn't in any relation to who he's in against. I'm talking about what Ocala is doing himself. Do I think Ocala's shown improvement in comparison to what he's done in previous fights against same sort of level opponents? Yeah, I do. I think you could see so much more improvement. And if you can't, then really you look at boxing completely different to how I look at it. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's different. So don't jump all over me because of the first line that I say on there, forget the opponent. Yes, I will forget the opponent because I'm talking about Lawrence Ocala's development, because I'm looking at Lawrence Ocala fighting for world titles next, because that's what they're talking about him. So you have to look at the development. And in the time that he's been with Shane McGuigan, do I see that Shane's added to his game, improved his game? Yeah. Does that stay together when he's under pressure and he's in a dogfight? I don't know yet because we haven't seen it. But to say the fighter's got to get past that reach, he's got to get past that reach and that power, because it's one thing getting past the reach and looking at slipping and bobbing and getting into range past the long levers that Coley's got. But then when you get nailed with that shot, it steadies you up. It makes you think, whoa, I can't get past that. I've got to be careful getting past that because I'm walked straight into something powerful. And that's the difference between when somebody's long arms, height and reach over you and can't punch, and somebody that's got that advantage over you and can punch. That makes them so difficult to beat. So when you're talking about him against the other world champions, does he have the power to beat those world champions? I think he's definitely got the power. I think he's genuinely got world-class punching power. He's one of, if he was American or from the Ukraine or Eastern Bloc somewhere, we've all been raving about what a monster puncher he is and he's going to wipe everybody out and this. But because he's British and he's got this serious power, we like to then say, yeah, but he likes to hold, he likes to this. I didn't see any holding last night. I think he's cleaned him up. He looked more assured in the ring. His stance was better. His positioning was better. The way he was delivering his shots were better. People say, "Oh, he can deliver his shots like against anyone." No, I'm talking about his technique on delivery. You can fight. You can have a bag in front of you, and you can look shit on the bag because of the way that you're delivering your punches. Yes, you can punch, but you look shit on the bag, right? So it's the same as if you're fighting a guy that's just a punch bag, right? So, but I'm talking about your delivery, about your technique on how you're punching. The way he's throwing the right hand, the way he's throwing the right hand to the body was beautiful. You know, the way that he's throwing his jab now. I don't know if I'm seeing things, but I can see a lot of improvement in what he's doing. Now, I'm not an Ocala fanboy. I'm not. Piccoli is not somebody that I've ever enjoyed watching box, because we've seen his fights where it can either be explosive or it can be boring, and it's like. So I'm not saying it because I think he's great. I'm saying it because I can see a big improvement, and so hats off to McGuigan, and hats off to Piccoli for the work they've done, because there's a massive improvement there. And yes, we need to see him against a better opponent, but we've seen before where Lomachenko against Lopez. Lomachenko's a fantastic fighter, a great fighter, but he couldn't get near Lopez because of what Lopez was doing. And whenever he did, because he felt the power of Lopez, it made him wary about trying to come in. So do you understand what I'm saying about where it's all right saying Breedis will walk straight through him, or what? Nobody's going to walk straight through him if they get tagged. They're going to have to think their way through him. Now then, if they're good enough to get through him, then fair enough. I'm not saying they're not going to. I'm not saying he's unbeatable. What I'm saying is that gives him a massive advantage, because he has the height, he has the reach, and he has that power. It makes him very, very difficult to beat.
Elsewhere on the card, I saw a couple of other heavyweight fights. We saw Hughie Fury channel the spirit of the late Joe Frazier with a rough and rugged performance against Marius Vac. I didn't expect that performance from Hughie Fury. It was a bit of a surprise to me. What did you think?
I think, to be honest, Hughie gets a lot of stick if he boxes, and we've heard, people saying about how he should be more aggressive. He should, he needs to put it on him a little bit. He's fought at a very, very high level for such a young man. So he's another one learning on the job, learning about himself on the job. He just seems more confident in himself these days. And against Marius Vac, that he's not going to be as fast as Hughie. So I felt that he wanted to go out there and be aggressive and beat the man up in his manner, in his way. And he did do that. And I felt so sorry for him, because he does that. He's more aggressive, and then he picks up a nasty cut. And so then he has to be smarter, because you're not just talking about. Kerry Kayes did a fantastic job on the cut. Fantastic job. But you're not just talking about that fight. You're talking about his career going forward. Does he make it worse by carrying on doing what he's doing? No, he's got to be smart. He's got to box his way to the win. So I felt sorry for him in that respect. But a good performance. He handled the cut very, very well. He got his boxing together very, very well. But it's one of those, isn't it? It's where he boxes on the back foot and he looks to box and win on points. And everybody says he's boring, it's this, you need to be this, you need to be that, you need to be more aggressive. And then he was aggressive last night, and then they're saying, he needs a box, and he shouldn't be doing that, being reckless, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, fucking hell, you cannot win. And this is the thing, is same with AJ, same with Hughie Fury, same with Piccoli, same with whoever it is, I'll say it to my lads, you go out there and you put on a good boxing display, and you box well, and you win the fight, and then people say, not good enough, you need to knock them out, you need to go in there and be exciting, be entertaining. You go in there to be exciting, to be entertaining, and you start throwing bombs, and you get caught because you're in that fight, you're in that mode, and you're in that range, and then people say you're reckless. People say, oh, you've got no defense. You're never going to win, and you're never going to please commentators, you're never going to please fans, all of them. So what you have to do is keep winning. Keep winning. Box to your strengths. Do what works for you. Keep the job going, and then eventually get your title shot, and then your dreams come true. And ultimately, we will always move on to, because it's not our careers, we will always move on to the next fighter to follow, the next fighter to be a fanboy of, the next fighter to criticize. We will always move on to the next one when your career's all done. Did you achieve what you wanted to do out of your career? Did you give it your best? Did you work to your strengths? Or did you not, because you tried to please everybody else? Did you try to please the fans? Did you try to please your promoter? Did you try to please TV? How far have you got? And did you do it for you? Ultimately, boxing is it's a very, very thin, fine line between success and failure sometimes. And like I said, you know, it frustrates me sometimes because you'll get certain fighters that get, you know, oh, he can't punch, but he's winning every fight and he's putting on a great display. Yeah, but he can't punch. But then you get fighters that can punch and they're getting it with every shot. And it's like, well, they don't talk about them being easy to it. A boxer gets it a couple of times in a round. Oh, yeah, you know, he needs to tighten up his defense and this, blah, blah. But a fighter is walking forward and he's looking for big pop and he's getting punched. People aren't talking about that. You know, you've got to kind of like do what works for you, and whatever works for you, that's your best shot of becoming successful in this sport.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that it's kind of in a similar, not identical mold, but to what we were talking about Anthony Joshua and Hughie Fury is last night. I mean, I put out a tweet saying I don't think I'd ever expected to see a Hughie Fury fight like that, but it does show that he's also, you know, looking at potentially a different style and working on a different way to do things. So that should always be encouraging, is always a good thing for a fighter. Moving on. Sergei Kuzmin, Martin Piccoli. Good win for Martin Piccoli in the end. Fight never really caught fire, but still a good win for Martin Piccoli nonetheless.
No, I think second round or something like that, they started opening up and I was like, whoa, this is getting good. And then it just fizzled out again. Good performance from Piccoli. Like you said, it's a good win. But it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a great fight to watch, you know, from my perspective, sat on sofa at home. But a good performance, and it's like I said, Kuzman's a good, you know, he's high ranked, good fighter. It's a very good win for Piccoli. I'd like to see like Piccoli in with your Piccoli against Joyce. That'd be a good fight. You know,
good build up as well. Sam Jones versus Billy Nelson.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course, yeah. But Piccoli's got some chin on him. You know, he's really got some chin on him, and I always hear good things about him in the gym and sparring and things like that. He's a very, very, you know, very, very tough man, very, very strong man, and like you saw last night, doesn't stop throwing punches. So, you know, something like him against Joyce would be brilliant to watch, to be honest.
What about the Michael Hunter rematch?
Yeah, why not? That'd be interesting because obviously I think. If I remember rightly, Piccoli injured his shoulder or something. I don't.
Yeah,
he
was
losing
after, was
the
it? Fight at that point. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
It was, I think 9 rounds down, or well,
yeah.
Hunter was ahead in the fight. He dislocated his shoulder and then went out and
that's it.
Stopped him.
So yeah, I'd like to see that. It'd be interesting to see what he's learned from that defeat. And obviously, I like Michael Hunter. Michael Hunter just needs to get a fight. So yeah, Hunter against Piccoli or, you know, whatever.
Just want to touch upon the fight that kicked off the pay-per-view bill, Florian Marku against Jamie Stewart. Interesting one. I think Jamie Stewart certainly boxed very, very well, but a lot of people, myself included, to be fair, felt that Florian Marku may be a touch hard done by the scorecards. What did you think?
I can't really comment on that. I flicked in and out of that one, to be honest, because yeah, I didn't sit down and watch the whole. I watched around, switched over, watched going around, switched over, just flicking in between that and Man United match, to be honest.
I'm assuming you didn't bet on the draw.
No, fucking hell, that was shit. That was dog shit. But yeah, so yeah, I can't really comment on that. What I did see is that Marku gets it a lot. You know, if you can talk again because he punches so hard and things like that. You know, raving about him. He's very, very limited, and he does get hit a lot. And you know, he calling out all everybody. You know, everybody and anybody. I've got a welterweight that'd fight him, and that's you know, that'd be a good fight. But yeah, he's not a superstar yet. He needs a lot of work. But he's only a novice. But that's how he should be packaged and seen as not somebody that's willing to fight everybody. And he will be willing to fight everybody because he's that kind of guy. I like him as a character. He's that kind of guy. But I think Sam Jones needs to just relax a little bit and let him develop and pick the right fights for him, because he's not ready for a lot of those guys out there. When I'm hearing about talking about it, like your Congos and people like that, mate, you're not ready for that sort of jump yet. Not yet. But like I said, I can't comment on the result because I literally, what was it? It was eight rounds, wasn't it? I probably watched about 4 of them. I literally half and half.
Okay, well, before I let you go, might as well touch upon the other fight, the final fight on the card, Kieran Conway versus the maddest man in Manchester, Macaulay McGowan. Good performance from Kieran Conway. A fairly, in the end, one-sided fight.
Yeah, good performance. I mean, that McGowan, how tough is he? He's a bit too tough. I don't think that's, I don't know much about the kid, but I don't think that's his natural weight division, or I don't think that's his optimum weight division. And when obviously fighters grow out of the weight divisions and through thickening out, through getting older, whatever, and just being too big for division. But when you look at his conditioning and you look at what he looks like at the weight last night, you can just see that he was literally just banking on being tough, which it comes to a point where you just think, well, let's be smarter than tougher. Gave it everything. Great character, but I'd like to see him go back down to welterweight and fight for Marku. We saw all that beef in the bubble, so that's the fight, isn't it? That's the fight. But go back down to the weight division. Kieran Conway, good performance. Did what he had to do. But
Okay, Dave. Well, thanks as always for your time on this lovely Sunday morning. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask everybody this question just before I wrap it up. AJ Fury, who wins and why?
Oh, we're talking about that. I don't know.
I want a prediction, though. I don't want a breakdown. I want a prediction.
Based on performances so far, I would have to say right now, not saying they're going to improve at all going forward, because that's the thing. They're still improving. So not saying that they're going to improve. Let's say based on what I've seen so far, I'd have to say Fury right now.
Okay. Well, thank you for not sitting on the fence. Let's see if everybody else is as willing as you to go out and put their neck on the line. Dave Coldwell, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social on this lovely Sunday. And I'm sure I will catch up with you soon.
Cheers, mate. See you soon.
Cheers, Dave.